Clips is going to be great. Presented by Tullamore Dew. Because when it's game time, it's Tully time. Now, here are your hosts, Olin Kreutz, Patrick Manley, and Mully from the Mully and Haugh Show on Sports Radio 670 The Score. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Well, yeah. It is the post-game show. It is the Great Clips post-game show presented by Tullamore Dew. And you need to pour yourself a shot. I mean, where do you go when the Bears go into Green Bay and lose 17-9 and never stop the Packers with a single 3-and-out? I guess you got to say that Jordan Love and his 84.4 completion percentage today is a pretty good player who belongs in the playoffs. They'll probably end up going to the Lions, I believe. Gentlemen, how'd you hold up through that?
Disappointed. Right, Olin? I mean, just extremely disappointed. We talked about the beginning of the game. We thought they had a chance. We were excited to say that, hey, this matchup, maybe not in the favor for the Bears, but would make it a game, and it wasn't. I just thought they got outplayed up front. That was the big thing for me. The Packers, they only gave up 1 sack. The Bears, I know they were down 2 starters, gave up 5 sacks. A lot of that goes on Luke Getsy. I thought his game plan was cut and paste from week 1. It was ugly. But again, the defense gave up, 100 yards to Aaron Jones, which they've been great up front all year. And, they're also getting after the quarterback after they got Montez Sweat, and they couldn't do it. So I just thought, if you break it down in the simplest forms to me, they got outplayed up front.
Yeah, they did. They got played out front. You end up, as a Bears analyst and fan, frustrated watching it again. Seems like we've been watching this same game against the Packers now for, 10, 15 years. So it's frustrating to watch the Bears, again, go out there and not be able to score points. The first time they played them, they got field goals mostly early in the game. They did that again. They could only get field goals. They couldn't put the ball in the end zone. We couldn't pass the ball. We couldn't run the ball very much. Like you're talking about, Pat, the offensive line really struggled, which we worried about going to the game, right, with Lucas Patrick out. And then Nate Davis goes down early. And now you're playing with 2 backups against the Green Bay Packers. They have 4 or 5 first-round picks up there on their front. Defensively, they couldn't stop the run, and they couldn't stop, although they didn't give them much points, but they could have. Jordan Love was moving the ball. The one takeaway really kept the game close. But it's just the same story. And we're here again at the end of the year, and we know all the assets and everything that they have, and we know they have the first pick of the draft, and we know they have an early pick with their own pick, and they have all these things to do. And gosh, it's time, right? It's time to go out there and find a way to start winning these football games against the Packers and get back to the playoffs, because watching this sucks.
Yeah, it is a difficult watch. There's no doubt about it. And I wonder, are we concluding anything based on that game? Is there anything that jumps out at you? Would you wonder if the head coach they want to reconsider where they're at with him? I'm not picking on him. It's just we've heard a lot of rumors about who's in and who's out, and the coach was apparently safe going into that game. Do you feel he's safe coming out of it?
I do. I mean, again, I'm going to be a little harsh on Luke Getsy. After last week, we're singing his praises of how good he made the offense look. Why does he not run that again this week? So I have a problem with Luke Getsy and what he's been doing with Justin Fields. I don't think he's unlocked him consistently. We've talked about Justin Fields not playing consistent. I think Luke Getsy has not been consistent either, and that's been a problem for both of them. But as far as the head coach, I don't think you draw any conclusions from this one. I don't think it sways it either way or the other. I think their decision is probably already made. I think this is kind of the middle of the ground game. I think it's disappointing, but I don't think it forces their hand one way or the other.
Yeah, it's just hard when you lose, what is 10 in a row now, I think. And I guess you can go through these Packers numbers, and they're disgusting, right, with how much you've lost and what you've actually won against them, and Eberflus and Justin Fields' record against them. And, I don't know. Obviously, we all seen the improvement over the last, month and a half or so, and then you come to this game, and it's really disappointing to play to that. We know Jalen Johnson is out, but the Packers have a lot of guys out too. It's that time of the year. Right, it's that time of the year where everybody's nicked up. You got to get on the field. If you can get on the field, you got to play. You got to go. You got to learn how to do those things. as a team, a culture, and all that stuff we talk about. Just frustrated to watch that game. We know where they're supposedly headed. If you ask me about Coach Eberflus, I'll be honest with you, I don't think anybody up there should be safe. And I'll keep saying this. You finally have a chance to do everything the right way, right? You finally have a chance to get the coach and the quarterback together at the same time. All I'm saying is, I know all the good things Eberflus has done. All I'm saying is you might want to consider it. Mm-hmm. You might want to consider it when you take a look at it. I know what good things Fields has done. I thought he was getting the ball out faster today, too. I know he was under a tremendous amount of pressure. Getsy's game plan wasn't great. I don't think you go 5 down on the road, obviously, when your O-line is struggling. But I think my time is up saying that, right, about Luke Getsy. Like, he's going to do it. He's going to go 5 down. He's going to go to the Aaron Rodgers, try to beat pressure, try to get the ball out, get as many receivers out as possible. Cole Kmet nicked up all game, too, so really all they have is DJ Moore. They hit him on that one mesh route for a big gain, and we can go over the game and just go over the same things over and over and over again, Pat and Mully. But eventually, man, they got to find a way to turn this around so we're not doing this every year.
Does this game make it easier for them to make the hard decision? I don't know if it's a hard decision, but now they go into it without the recency bias like you were talking about. If they went out there and they won this game 28-20 or 28-14, do they feel different, right? Or does this game actually help them say, okay, now we can look at this with a little bit of clearer eyes, because this is kind of who they've been all year. They've been up and down with the Atlanta win, this game, ugly offensive game plan. Does this help them maybe make that harder decision, just to say, hey, yep, look, this is another reason why we can move on, like what Olin's talking about, of cleaning house and trying to start new, or whatever the really tough decisions they're going to be able to make of some of these people's careers?
We talked about a lot before these games about why not give Janoko a chance to call plays so we don't have to watch this again, right? We talked about this so you can help, we talked about them. I don't have faith in them making the hard decisions, whether the hard decision is to keep Justin Fields and Coach Eberflus or whether it's to move on. They're both not easy decisions, right? You have to go there and collect all the information you can collect, and then you got to make a decision you think is best for Haugh. But I lose faith in it when you don't make any decisions as this year is coming to a close, where you just let everything play out. You already knew what the percentage was, what the chance was that you were going to get this kind of game out of the Chicago Bears in their offense when you head to Green Bay, because you already know what your quarterback and your play caller do. But you just stay the same. So obviously just frustrated by that. I don't think, Pat, honestly, just to answer your question, I don't think it makes anything easier for them up there, right? Yeah. I think they have a hard time making hard decisions. I think they have a hard time making people in their building uncomfortable. And I think they have to do some of those things, and we'll see if they do it this time.
Yeah, I kind of imagine that Kevin Warren is going to make a series of decisions. And I mean, like, if I worked at Haugh, I would figure that guy's walking around and keeping notes on everything he sees and everything he does and how everybody has behaved at the podium and whether or not they've been embarrassed at different points. I would be nervous for my job if I had a new boss coming in. And I'm not just talking about people on the field. I mean the whole damn organization. I would be very concerned about how, when change comes, it can come in a very large sense. So I think, there is. I do believe that idea, Dustin, that it is, Olin, that it is easier to make harder decisions when you have this sort of a lead in. And we know how important this stuff is to the McCaskey family. They were not competitive in that game. The coach's defense didn't stop anything. And I like the way you asked that question, Olin. Losing Jalen Johnson, did that guy just make more money than he did at getting the Pro Bowl? They missed him, and they did not make plays. And Eddie Jackson, I'd be worried if I were you.
Yeah,
the tackling was terrible.
Yeah,
sorry, Pat.
I was going to say, I wonder how Kevin Warren has made people feel in that building. And Mully, you made a good point that everybody is wondering what's going to happen. And Olin and I have a lot of friends that are still there, from equipment staff to video to all across the staff of the Bears team. I wonder how uncomfortable he made everybody this year and what they're thinking of their future. I mean, it's because there's some changes potentially that could change all the way across the board, like you said, and we'll see what happens with that. Because to me, it's not just a football decision of players and personnel; it's an entire building. That's your culture. That's who you are. I mean, it's every single person at every single job you have there needs to be really looked at and scrutinized and figure out. They haven't been doing a good enough job, right? I mean, they've been to the playoffs once for how many ever years and haven't won a playoff game for how many years. Everybody needs to be scrutinized. Everybody needs to take a hard look at that. And I just wonder how uncomfortable those people are up there underneath Kevin Warren's leadership.
Yeah, it's when you go into games and you're wondering, okay, how much are they going to play these Packers? You hear people say things like, does Jalen Johnson really have to play today? And as a former player, I mean, I know that like the logic behind it, but it rubs you the wrong way, right?
Yes.
Because eventually you can't keep thinking like that, right? You got to change the culture or the attitude up there. And I just, it's to me, as hard as this decision is, it's easy to me if I'm Ryan Poles. I just sit everybody gets in a room and I say, look, man, I mean, you had, I don't know what you had 13 first downs. Like, let's go over them. Like, what was this play calling here? Well, what was Justin Fields' job here? And I just make decisions off of that, right? I asked Coach Eberflus, Coach Flus, why can't I get my young defensive tackle, Javon Dexter, to play the run better at the end of the year?
Right.
Like, why is he still high? Why is they still driving him off the ball? These are simple, fundamental things that you have to do in the last game. If anybody should be getting better, it's the young players. If anybody should be fresh, it's the young guys who aren't going to play another game. Right? You're young. Like get in there, and I want to see you getting after it. Did this Packers offensive line, there's no all-pros out there. Right? There was no all-pros on the field. Why are we getting blown off the ball? I just, if I'm Ryan Poles, I have to ask those things.
I mean, I'm sorry. It gets you. The Flower has never lost to the Bears.
It's unbelievable.
In 5 years. Mm-hmm. That's 10 games. And I mean, okay, blame Justin Fields. He's lost 6 to him. How competitive have they been? And how much are they trying to actually build a team to beat the best team in their division? I mean, here's the thing. That was a lopsided battle if you're just looking at the two quarterbacks. Lopsided. That Jordan Love picked you apart. Yep. And I got to tell you, maybe the most horrible moment of the whole experience was listening to Tony Romo talk about traits from Brett Favre that were learned by Rodgers and then passed down to this guy. You got to be kidding me. We're going to go through this again? It's just unacceptable. I'm sorry. You can't let that continue to happen.
Yeah, to me, it's going to be interesting to hear the callers, the people that, back Justin Fields and say he doesn't have enough stuff around him. And Olin, you have a great point about Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. Their O-line's not great, but he makes them better. He has made everybody better. He made those young receivers better. He doesn't have a DJ Moore over there, and it makes me ill to watch him play and to watch him the way he's doing it, processing information, getting the ball out quick, delivering on-time passes, accurate passes. It makes me ill as a former Bears player and a Bears fan to see that happening up there again, to see that happening against us today. I'm sick of it. Absolutely sick.
Yeah, they're splitting time with their offensive linemen, right? They're splitting time at right guard.
Yeah.
We talked about going into the game. Their left tackle's a 7th-round pick. Their right tackle's a 4th-round pick. They're all young guys. I think that Hicks caught the ball, and I had to dig through my roster to figure out who he was when he made Eddie Jackson miss that tackle. I was like, who's this guy? I don't know. That's not Tyreek Hill, so I'm trying to figure out because he looked like him when he made our strong safety miss the tackle, right? So, you didn't want to overreact to them winning those games that they won or beating Atlanta the way they did. You're not going to overreact. And a lot of people said going into this game, obviously the decision should have been made. The game should have meant a lot to them. When you watch the game, it's the Green Bay Packers. I'm a former Bear, Pat's a former Bear. Obviously, Mully's a Chicago guy. That pisses us off, right? It pisses you off to lose that much to this team, and for them to look like they're out coaching you and out playing you, and really that they're out physically you in the game, right? That they are more physical at the line of scrimmage. Tevin Jenkins, not a good game. Feeney, not a good game. Cody Whiter's got to go play right guard because Nate Davis goes out. Just not a good game by the offensive line as a whole. So again, you get to a point of like you can make an argument for or against Justin Fields, right? You don't get any answers.
Right.
And this is where we've all been throughout these last 2 years where you don't get a lot of answers. And they have to figure out those answers up there at Haugh. And congratulations, you got the first pick, and let's all celebrate that every year, right? Maybe we'll celebrate it again next year.
Oh man, this is just—it's depressing, man. It just really is. It's really tough. I mean, I went into this game expecting more. I wanted to see more. I wanted to have a good taste in my mouth going into the offseason, like you talked about, Olin. Having a good taste talking about the first round pick, right? And saying, all right, we can get to do this. They showed us a lot today, the way the Packers beat the Bears and what happened. It showed a lot of the ugliness that is still part of this team. There is some good and we've saw some progress, but there's still some ugliness in this team. We saw a lot of that today.
I think when you look at it, the part that worries you is that, and we know we have all these, you don't got to call in and tell us we have that first round pick, we have the assets, and we have the money, and the team's going to look different next year. We know that. But that wasn't, Aaron Rodgers, an all-pro left tackle,
right?
An all-pro receiver, and two good running backs, right? That was Rasheed Walker, Jordan Love, and Dontavian Wicks beating you out there, and Malik Heath.
Yeah.
Right? So just something that they're a young team too. It's just you're going to compete against them year in and year out. And the Bears are right. They do have a lot of assets, and they do have the first pick, and they do need to add a lot to this team.
They're the youngest team in the league, not you. You're a young team, but that is a very young team. And as you say, Olin, a lot of these kind of unnamed faceless players ended up playing key roles in the game. And that's kind of I didn't see anything on offense that would cause me to praise Luke Getsy Romo style. I also didn't see a defense that was the kind of one that you witness getting better week in and week out. They did not get better in that game.
No, they regressed, and that's unfortunate. That was what I was hoping. I wanted to see this matchup against this defense against this improved Packers offense, and they went out there and played a bad game. 7 for 11 on third down they gave up. I mean, that's unacceptable. You can't have that. I mean, that's just – and there were a lot of times I was going through my plays here. A lot of times they didn't have third downs on drives. They never got to that. Maybe they got to a couple field goals at the end was the first third down where they had to kick, and one they made, one they missed. But it wasn't the type of effort that you thought you were going to, or that I was hoping I was going to see from this defense to say, okay, they have taken that step. They are now a top 10 to maybe next year a top 5 defense. Today was not a good day for them at all.
No, not for the defense, not for the pass rush, not for the secondary. We know they're missing Jalen Johnson, and Terrell Smith got hurt, right? Hurt his hamstring. I think it was like second quarter he hurt his hamstring. But you every time you looked at that Atlanta film, you just kind of whispered to yourself, right? That's Taylor Heineke.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Just kind of always reminded yourself, okay, that's Taylor Heineke, and you're excited to see this defense, this ferocious front. Montez Sweat and Billings and Justin Jones and Walker. And early on, I mean, the bull rush right to the left tackle, get a sack. Walker does, and it did show up sometimes, but just the coverage wasn't there. And it seemed like every time they needed a play, like we're talking about with Getsy, LaFleur dialed something up where there was that cover 2 beater, right, to start the second half, to read down the sideline and just right down the sideline. And Tyreek Stevenson, again, causes a fumble, makes a big play at the end of the half because the Packers are going for that 2-for-1 again. But they're worried about their field goal kicker not making that kick. But it's just what we're saying is this coaching staff right now, not good enough, right? Not good enough.
Yep.
The team, not good enough.
Yep.
And yes, there's all these things that we know is exciting offseason with the number 1 pick again and all that stuff. And I'll keep saying that because I just want to keep repeating it so I make myself feel better at some point after watching that game, right? And seeing and going through these years, it's just you just hate losing to the Packers, man. It's just really after a while, and then you're chasing them. They lose Aaron Rodgers, and they got a young quarterback, and the team is young, and they're going to get better too, right? They're going to add guys also. So it's just the Bears have to take a really good look. Kevin Warren, Ryan Poles, and a really good look at what's happening there at Haugh and realize the standard has to change, and they got to change it with the people they put in that building.
Here's what makes me mad, guys. It's not the loss pisses me off, right? I'm ticked about that. But the Packers and the Bears at the beginning of the year kind of had the same questions, right? It's like it was right before the break. Kind of the same questions that they're a young team. How are they going to grow? Do they have the answer at the quarterback? Well, the Green Bay answered all those questions. Now they have a franchise quarterback. We answered some of those questions. We haven't answered the Justin Fields questions. That's what makes me mad going forward.
312-644-6767. Your call's next. It is, of course, the post-game show, for God's sake. I don't even know. I just need to tuck into some Tullamore Dew. The Great Clips post-game show presented by Tullamore Dew. We'll be right back with your calls on The Score.
The Bears finished the season as they started it with a loss to the Green Bay Packers. Keep it here for full reaction to the game. postgame show. Great clips. It's going to be great. Presented by Tullamore Dew. When it's game time, it's Telly time. Now here are your hosts, Olin Kreutz, Patrick Manley, and Mully from the Mully and Haugh Show on Sports Radio 670 The Score.
What a difference a year makes. And what a crowning moment it is for the first-year starter, Jordan Love, who led them to this victory today and into the playoffs. The oldest rivalry in the NFL, but it's the same old story now for a number of years as the Packers beat the Bears for a 10th consecutive time.
It is indeed the Great Clips post-game show presented by Tullamore Dew, and thank you to CBS. Thank you to CBS for that final comment from the broadcast. The Bears are left with a lot of angry fans, and we'll start with Steven. He is on the line, 312-644-6767. Hey, Steven.
Hi, guys. Happy New Year. Thanks for the phone call one last time. I totally agree with everybody. Pat tweeted about the Getsy's offense like as if it's a copy and paste from week one. This is probably just as worse as the week one loss. It obviously it doesn't translate to the score, but we were just completely mauled and dominated in the trenches. And we continue to make the same mistakes over and over again, running the ball on 2nd and 4 up the middle and set up ourselves on 3rd and long, and then Justin getting sacked. It's like wash, rinse, repeat. And, we're going to find out a lot about this Bears organization this offseason. I know Ryan Poles is in a very top spot, but if you're going to run it back with mediocre coaching staff, once again, then Poles is going to set himself up to be fired. And I hope Warren and Poles saw enough today that getting blasted by the Packers for 10 straight games when Matt LaFleur is 10-0, and Eberflus has shown way too casual for me to be a head coach when Justin Fields is getting hit and he doesn't show enough emotions to, attack, or not attack physically, but yell at the NFL officiating for constant unnecessary hits that Fields take. Goes to show that I just think that Matt Eberflus just doesn't have the inner fortitude to be a real good head coach.
I don't know what to take about yelling at the referee, but I mean, he talked to him afterwards when he took him out or whatever, and I don't. That to me is. Plus, we didn't see it. What he might have been yelling as well. They didn't cut to him, I don't think. But I don't know. It's just he's just. We got a lot of stuff to deal with, and I think a lot of Bears fans are really upset being 0-10 against the Packers in the last 10 games, and it just stinks to watch that game because I feel now that we still got a little bit of ways to go to catch up to them because, like I said, this year they've really improved. They have their answer at the quarterback. We improved a little, but we don't have the answer at the quarterback.
Yeah, Steven, he makes a good point about the trenches, right? I think that was what was most disappointing about today's game was go out there and make it a street fight, right? They got to get to the play. They got to win the game to get to the playoffs. They're the one who has to play it next week. Go out there and make it an absolute dogfight for them, right? Go get after them, be aggressive. To his point, I thought Coach Eberflus sometimes, I think it was the second they were backed up, the Packers. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. With a tackle for loss, and then we played a zone and gave them just a nice dump in the middle of the field. Just didn't make sense to me, the lack of aggression sometimes today and really getting after these guys to force them to ask themselves the question late in the fourth quarter, do you really want to win this game? And when they asked themselves that question, their answer was yes. Right, and what you did didn't bug them, and they just kept running the ball. And Aaron Jones ran the ball for a first down and ended the game. We didn't even get to see Justin Fields get back on the field, which would have been a part of the evaluation again, right? For Justin Fields' evaluation there late in the game, tie it up against Green Bay Packers, 17-9 on the road. That's a big stop right there, right? That's a big stop for evaluation purposes, but we can go back through the year of when they missed those opportunities. And as far as Justin Fields taking that hit. I think the callers are right. I think that eventually, some point, Justin Fields should get those flags, And Coach Eberflus, I'm talking about getting aggressive and stuff. And at some point, get out there screaming and yelling and try to get more emotion out of your team after what you're watching and how they're playing. It seemed a little lackluster. So I don't know, Pat. Maybe at some point there, I go crazy on purpose, right?
Yeah, right.
Just to do it, just to go out there and go nuts and back up my quarterback and get after people, because you know that sideline. We've heard them on the podium. The players are asking the same question of why Justin Fields is not getting those calls. So at that moment, we talked about smoking a cigar to rally your teammate, right? Well, why not yell at the ref for the same reasons, to try to rally everybody behind one reason and get a win and get everybody fired up, even though maybe you thought, that really wasn't that bad. The guy hit him with the shoulder. He was already launching when Justin Fields was sliding. Who cares? Go overboard right there. Go crazy. Get in the ref's face. Yell and scream, and maybe get some energy out of your team.
Let's try Chris. He's in Evanston. Hey, Chris.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Once again, I want to start off my call by saying I've been living in Jacksonville. Like I said, I'm from Evanston. Been living in Jacksonville for 9 years. Grew up listening to The Score. I was in high school when you guys came out. Watched Mully, watched Olin in their career. Enjoyed every minute of it. Love to listen to you guys, all the Score personalities I grew up with, and listen to y'all every week. Makes me feel like I'm back home, so I appreciate y'all. Now, today, I feel like, and this is my theory, I feel like if you're keeping Justin Fields, why don't you throw the ball today? Because you want to build this young quarterback going into next year, keep the momentum. He had his best passing game last week. The only thing I could come up with as to why we would not have passed that ball today is they made up their mind. He played great. We're not going to even give him a chance to diminish his trade value. Now, that's just my theory. Pocket presence, the O-line hung him out to dry. When he had a chance, he did what he could to try to stay in the pocket and make plays. The big key for me, though, was that, like Romo said, that pass that almost got picked to Cole Kmet in the end zone, he was wide open. He was wide open. We keep saying we don't have the answer. It's been 3 years. It's been 3 years. He's 0-6 against the number one rival of the Chicago Bears, oldest rivalry in the NFL. He's 0-6. It's not just him, but you win and lose by what? We all know. In the NFL, you win and lose by the quarterback. You win and lose by the quarterback. I said it when we played the Bucs. He got thoroughly outplayed by Baker Mayfield. I say let's go back and watch all the preseason analysis and predictions of what the Bucs was going to be with Baker Mayfield. Well, they're in the playoffs. Where are we?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, man. The Bears got, absolutely run over on the offensive line in that game. It's that simple. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, I guess Jordan Love pressured 12% of his passes, which is the lowest percentage of his career. So the Bears got nothing going. They got no pass rush, and they got overwhelmed. And they just, as we've mentioned, they lost this game up front. That's a terrible combination of getting run over and having no pass rush. I mean, is that because they're not in the playoffs? Is that guys quitting on the season? I don't know what you call that, but I don't think we've seen that entirely this year, that dominant sort of line of scrimmage issue.
Olin, correct me, we didn't see as many blitzes today, did we? I don't feel like I saw as many, pressures dialed up by Eberflus as we've seen in the past. I don't know if that was a game plan thing going against Jordan Love because he looked so good against Flores last week in Minnesota with all his blitzes, but it just didn't seem like they gave a lot of one-on-one pass rush attempts up front for the guys. That's just kind of what I saw. I could be wrong.
I thought early on, if you remember in the first quarter, they sent Tremaine Edmonds and Aaron Jones beat T.J. Edwards for that pass on the third down. Mm-hmm. And since then, I thought maybe he was a little gun shy, and I thought sometimes when they man coverage, they got beat. Yep. And maybe without Jalen Johnson, he didn't feel comfortable, right? Yeah. I don't know. But I agree with you. That doesn't mean I think that he should have did what he did. I thought he should have been a little more aggressive. To Mully's point, the offensive line just had a rough day, and really the D-line for the Packers did that to them too, right? In week one, they started to overwhelm them. Devontae Wyatt, Kenny Clark, Carl Brooks, the Preston Smith was giving them all they could handle. And that five-man protection was not working for the Bears, but we kept going back to it. To the caller's point, though, Chris said about that throw to Cole Kmet, you don't want to blame anybody, and it would have been a great play and a great throw. You just want to see Justin Fields at this point in his career layer that ball over, kind of see that cornerback out of the side of his eye and layer it over him. Cole Kmet's wide open in the end zone, right? But he threw a ball in a straight line and it almost got picked off, right? And those are the kind of plays you want to see a guy make when your line's getting overwhelmed. There's going to be games like that where the line is getting overwhelmed. Doesn't give them an excuse. They got to play better. But it's only 17-9 the game, guys. There's only one score.
Right.
For as bad as we thought the defense played, for as many yards as they gave up, for they couldn't stop Love. Love played great. They couldn't stop the run. The Packers had 17 points.
Yeah, the one thing I just don't understand, I'm going to go back to Luke Getsy. If you have two starting offensive linemen down, why are you doing the five-man blocking? Why aren't you doing what you did the week before and using the strength of Justin Fields with his legs and throwing, getting him out of the pocket, and helping your O-line? To me, he did not help the O-line at all today. He hindered him. He said, all right, backups, you're gonna beat these guys up front who are pretty darn good players. Kenny Clark has, 7.5 sacks this year? I think it's the most he's had in his career. To me, it's just that's poor coaching. As a coach, you're supposed to put players in position to succeed, and when a backup comes in, you've got to figure out a way to help him. And to help him is get Justin Fields out of the pocket. He should have been doing that the entire year with him, because I think we saw when you do that, you have the most success.
Yeah, they really like that toss concept today, right?
Yeah.
Whether it be tossing, take it outside, or toss, take it inside. I thought with the way I saw the field, I remember Tony Medlin, the Bears equipment manager, used to scream at us, right? Put your studs in. Put your 5 studs in. That's the screw-ins for the listeners. 5 inches long. That feels terrible. I saw too many guys with nubs on their shoes. By nubs, I mean just those turf, those low ones. I thought the ball should have been going downhill hard. It's going to be a physical game, Pat. You know and I know late in the year, either at Soldier Field or at Lambeau Field, when you hit that field, it feels like cement, right? It's cold.
Yep.
It's been frozen there for a couple of weeks now. You're going to hit it. It's going to be sore. You got to put those nubs on. It's just going to be that kind of ugly football game, right? And I just don't think it didn't look like to me at any point Getsy bought into that, which is strange to me since he coached up there, right? That I'm just going to get this Roshan Johnson going downhill with a gap, get my big old line moving downhill. I know they had some injuries. We saw the bad snap from the center. We were worried about that going in early on. Just not enough from the offense, and we've been saying that too much.
All right, 312-644-6767. Let's try John. He's listening on the Odyssey app. Hey, John.
Hey, guys, always enjoy you. Did they pay Getsy off? Did Green Bay pay him off? The same looks like the same plan from game one. Also, man, one pass in the red zone about 5-6 times, one pass in the end zone. That was the one to commit. This is ridiculous. They both need to be fired, and we would be in the playoffs if the coach had not lost them 3 games in the last quarter. We need to stop picking on Justin Fields, man, especially you, Manley. Stop picking on Justin Fields because we are in the playoffs if the coach don't blow those 3 games.
How am I picking on Justin Fields? I've just talked about Luke Getsy not calling a good game for him. There's been some other games, yes, I've said he's not played well enough, and everybody knows that. He's been inconsistent the entire time. I want the young man to succeed. I think he could be better if they give him a different offensive coordinator. I think they can unlock him a little bit differently and use his skill set. So I've never been knocking Justin Fields saying he's not a good quarterback. There's better coaches, I think, for him. I just don't think him and Luke Getsy worked out. But today I put it on Luke Getsy, not Justin Fields.
Well, yeah, and to a bigger point, right? To a bigger point. Let's stop the nonsense of picking on your quarterback. There's like 2 quarterbacks in the league. If you don't have the first pick, the analysts and everyone's not picking on the quarterback. Right. Like the Chicago Bears had the first pick in the draft 2 years in a row. Of course we're evaluating the quarterback, right? Of course we are. Everybody would be. There's like 3 guys in the league that you wouldn't evaluate your quarterback if you had the number 1 pick, and those teams will never have the number 1 pick. Okay, so like, let's stop the nonsense on that. Of course, we are taking a good look at Justin Fields and whether Caleb Williams or May are better than him. Of course we are. Every good franchise would do that. As far as the coaches lost the game, I mean, that's what we talked about with Coach Eberflus, right? Like, we got to go back to the evaluation, the 2 coaches that got fired. He did do great. They did it on a run. But then they lost the last game to their rivals. And this team is a young team that we're going to compete against. And it looked like to me that Coach LaFleur got the best of Coach Eberflus today, and he has been getting the best of him. So I don't know. These are things you got to look at if you're Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren.
No question about it. All right, 312-644-6767. We're going to keep it going. We'll get back to your calls. You're listening to the Scores postgame show. It is the Great Clips postgame show presented by Tullamore Dew. We'll be right back on The Score.
Tomorrow is Football Monday on The Score, with all our shows joined by an unprecedented team of experts reacting after the game. It's going to be great. Presented by Tullamore Dew. When it's game time, it's Telly time. Now, here are your hosts, Olin Kreutz, Patrick Manley, and Mully from the Mully and Haugh Show on Sports Radio 670 The Score.
Well, Jim, I had a chance to speak with Bears team president and CEO Kevin Warren before the game, and he told me tomorrow the coaches will have a final meeting with the players, and then he and Ryan Poles will have their end-of-the-year process and recap with the coaches. One thing he stressed to me is the importance of stability. They have a stadium plan, a team plan, and they have a culture plan, and he's been very pleased with what he's seen in terms of the improvement of Justin Fields and this team this year. And Kevin Warren mentioned to me his time with Dick Vermeil and the LA Rams and how it took until year 3 to put it all together. He sees this as a similar situation. Certainly will be interesting to see what the Bears ultimately do, guys.
Very interesting. That is Tracy Wolfson during the broadcast. She had a chat with the man that's really, it's his voice now. We'll find out what he has to say. I kind of liked hearing his description of what happens tomorrow, including they solidify whatever their plan is. We know that the general manager Ryan Poles has already kind of said some more positive things about Matt Eberflus. I wonder if there's a conversation there, or if they know what way they're going, but Kevin Warren, his end of season evaluation is as interesting as anything you're going to see coming in the next week, right? We will hopefully hear from him at some point during the week, maybe Wednesday, Thursday. I hope it's earlier.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting for us, right? Because we're going through all this losing, whether it be, John Fox, Trestman, Nagy, now with Coach Eberflus going into, they just ended his second year, right, Pat? It's interesting because with new, they don't look at it that way, right? They look at that they're in their first year, right? And that Ryan Poles looks like they're going to their third year. They don't worry about all the losing before and the frustration that we've been going through, where we just read off all those Packer losses, right? So it's like eventually you have to step back and take a look at the way they're looking at it, and they don't see the decade or more of losing that we have watched, right? They don't have that history in their mind, and I would just warn them that they might want to study their history and be careful doing things the same way over and over again, because we've watched that too many times here.
Yeah, there's just an opportunity. You can look back the last 25 years, from Michael McCaskey when they moved on from him to where they are now, or before where they are now, it was just a lot of the same old, and it was not good enough. And we were part of it. It was mediocrity. We went to one Super Bowl. We didn't win it. Went to one NFC championship, lost that. But we were up and down too much. There wasn't sustained success of a 10-year period, 12-year period of us winning the division every year, knowing we're going to the playoffs every year. So to me, that's just still not good enough. We didn't provide enough, and a lot of that is what everything is in Haugh Hall. I am really interested, obviously, everybody is interested in what to do with Justin Fields, what to do with the coaches, but I'm interested to see what they do with Haugh Hall. That place has been pretty much the same place for the last 25 years. And I hate saying it, but there's a lot of people in that building that are friends of mine that, that I got to know for 16 years being in that building. But how hot is their seat? How much change needs to be made all through that building to kind of change the entire direction of this ship? Because it's been doing the same thing over and over and over. Yes, it's going to make a difference if you find the franchise quarterback or unlock Justin Fields, whatever you do with the head coach, OC, and all that kind of stuff. I agree. But I'm talking the overall direction. Well, I guess the old Haugh Hall looked like an old ship, right, Olin? I think Michael McCaskey designed it to look like that or whatever. So wherever direction that thing is going, it needs to change. It needs to get in a better position to get sustained. Excuse me, it's hard to say sustained success. And there's just a lot of tough decisions that are going to be made up in Haugh Hall.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that what was the guy's name? Tom Modric years ago. Remember that guy was with the Steelers at the time, and he applied for the Bears GM job, and they did not hire him. And one of the reasons that I was told talking to people is that he basically wanted to get rid of everyone in the building. He wanted to, like anyone who's been there for 5 years had to go. They had to start from scratch. It was too insulated, and there were just too many people who had been there for too long. Now, they feel that's a strength because they're comfortable in it.
Right.
But that is what his idea was, and they wanted no part of it. So I'll be very curious to see exactly how Kevin Warren operates and what his ideas are. And if he, the other element here is Kevin Warren came in, it's not like everyone there is a Kevin Warren guy, right? I mean, they did a real good job of kind of somebody wrote a nice story about him. Maybe he sticks around. I hope it was Larry Mayer, our old buddy.
Yes.
But whoever it was, I think other than that, I don't know who he likes or who he has or who he the one thing that bothers me is when I hear about the Rams and how he was sort of, informed by the Rams. That was the weirdest thing that ever happened in the NFL. The Rams lost their starting quarterback, and they happen to have a Hall of Famer sitting on the bench. What are the odds of that? If we ought to have to replace the quarterback and make sure that guy's outstanding. How do you find Kurt Warner? That's like the greatest kind of underdog story in NFL history. They made a movie about it.
Yep. I mean, Tom Brady as well. That's where you try to get lucky to get.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
Good God. All right. I'm sorry.
What's it like to talk about the playoffs? You know what I mean? Instead of coaches.
I would never be able to
what's
tell you.
What's it like to talk about keeping your rivals out of the playoffs and winning that game? What's it like, man? I'd like to know, once before this analyst works all over for me.
Agreed. I want a nice long run of about 5 or 6 years of every day every year we get lined up for the first pregame show that we're like, all right, what seed are we going to get this year?
Right.
That's what I want to talk about.
Yeah. Boy, that sounds like a.
I just want, 2018 was once. I'm just looking for it again.
Yeah, right.
Just looking for it again, and just not going through the whole process of what they need to do at Haugh and how to get that thing turned around. And they do have a new president.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the one thing we did talk about. And I'd have to study Mr. Warren's whole background to see how he actually does things when he goes into places and they're brand new, right? And does he make a bunch of changes? I went through a quick Wikipedia page for the Vikings, but I can't find much of anything, right? So I think Rick Spielman and Zimmer were there forever, right? And did he keep them when he was there? And did he like what he saw, or did he change things? And again, moving in the right direction. It's just interesting. This week for us will be so interesting, guys, because we think we know what they have to do up there at Haugh. They obviously know more than us what's the day-to-day operations are like up there. It's going to be interesting to hear about what an outsider thinks needs to happen at that building, right? And then you would call Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles, from what we've seen there from the Ted Phillips and Michael McCaskey and George McCaskey eras, that this is all brand new for them. It's a new president. So it's good. I'm very interested going into this week to see what he thinks needs to change and what he thinks he needs to get that moving in the right direction. And they have a ton of assets to get it moving that way. So very interesting week coming up for Bears fans and people who cover the Chicago Bears.
And honestly, the next 3 months are going to be fascinating, right? I mean, I don't think we're going to find out immediately. Well, I don't think we're going to find out immediately about the quarterback. If you're going to trade him, you're going to wait to do that. I think that, if the only decisions you can expect immediately, you probably are going to know about the head coach and the offensive coordinator and the general manager, although I think we already know about him. But I think the rest of it is going to be very interesting to kind of monitor and wait and see for quite a long time, frankly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to see the Chicago Bears, you would argue that the football operations staff has been impressive, right? With their getting the first pick and then trading for DJ Moore and getting Montez Sweat and then getting the first pick again of this draft, and our guys like Ian Cunningham around in the next 2 months, right? And there's their new general manager, guys like Jeff King. Do they become hot names out there because of what the the way they have conducted the collecting of draft picks and getting a salary cap back in order and getting Montez Sweat and DJ Moore and guys that look like they know what they're doing. So it'll be interesting to see who that team is up there at Hallis Hall, even on the football operations side of it. Because I would expect Assistant General Manager Ian Cunningham. He almost got hired last year.
Yes.
I wouldn't expect him to be here.
That's interesting.
And I know we got to get to a break, but the McCaskies still run this team. Kevin Warren is on a leash, and it's the McCaskey leash. How big and how long is that leash? How many decisions can he make? How much money can he spend? How much can he cut from the building and rehire and do all that kind of stuff? That, to me, it still comes back to the McCaskies. Yes, we have a new president, but the person that's going to say yes or no is George McCaskey on some of these big decisions. And there could be a whole lot of decisions being made throughout that building, and George might say, no, I don't want you to touch this side of the building. I just want you to worry about football. And that's kind of what scares me. I hope the new eyes of Kevin Warren can really see everything and is allowed to touch everything.
That's very interesting. I would hope he already had that agreement written into his deal, frankly.
Yep.
But we'll find out. Yep. All right, we've got we're going to get to your calls, 312-644-6767. You, of course, are listening to the postgame, the Great Clips postgame show presented by Tullamore Dew on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score.
The Bears finished the season as they started it with a loss to the Green Bay Packers. Keep it here for full reaction to the game from all of our shows and team of Bears experts, along with your reaction too. Plus, we'll look ahead to another huge offseason where Ryan Poles will decide who stays, who goes, and what to do with the first overall pick in the 2024 draft here on Sports Radio 670 The Score. Always live on the free Odyssey app.